Since the announcement yesterday for the new killer in Dead by Daylight, a lot of people are asking why Pyramid Head? And why now? I think there's a few reasons why people are asking why Pyramid Head, and I wanted to try to shed some light for those people. But I do want to point out that there are a few people out there who are merely upset that the killer wasn't, Sugar Man or Woody the Doll or the Leprechaun or whatever, and I get it. It's pretty upsetting when a killer is announced and it's not what you expect, especially when it's a franchise killer. But if you're upset that your killer's not in the game, I highly recommend you listen on and watch this video just to get an idea of why they might have picked Pyramid Head and why they may not have picked the killer that you thought they might pick this time. And just because they didn't pick your killer this time doesn't mean they may not pick it next time. But if you're someone who's genuinely curious, why is Pyramid Head in Dead by Daylight? You first have to look at the clues the devs originally gave. A genre-defining horror icon, a classic. All of these terms define Silent Hill as a game, less so than it defines Pyramid Head as a killer. But since this killer is a prominent icon of Silent Hill itself, that's okay. So why is Silent Hill a genre-defining horror icon of a game? Well, when you're talking movies, it's not. The movies are B-level at best and a complete fail at worst. But the original Silent Hill game paved the way for serious horror games in January of 1999 on its release. With its cold atmosphere, adult themes, and gory imagery, Silent Hill brought to the genre these mature aspects of horror that were largely lacking in previous games in the genre, such as Resident Evil. While one could argue Resident Evil is probably the most influential horror game historically, due to the popularization of tank controls, jump scares, and survival horror mechanics, I would argue Silent Hill is nearly as important, if not more important, just for taking those basic mechanics and refining them using important horror themes that were largely missing in Resident Evil.
What is it?
Watch out! It's a monster!
Let me take care of this.
You can see the stark contrast between the seriousness and maturity of Silent Hill and this.
Kenneth was killed too. Maybe by this creature. Anyway, let's report this to Wesker.
Now to explain the Pyramid Head itself, it's sort of the big bad of Silent Hill 2. If you want to think of him mechanically, or even story-wise he's kinda like the Nemesis or Mr. X of Silent Hill. A hulking creature that you really don't want to run into, and you might unexpectedly, and you quickly have to learn how to fight it off. There's generally only one around at a time, although there is the odd exception, and while Dead by Daylight continuously refers to Pyramid Head as a he, it's more of an it if you consider the creature overall. The creature stands tall, at about 7 feet tall in most forms of media he's appeared in. While you may look at this creature and assume it's a man in a helmet, you'd be surprised. Masahiro Ito, the original designer of Pyramid Head, stressed the significance of the fact that his head is the pyramid. He is not a man trapped inside a box. He's a creature whose head is one that symbolizes pain, fear, and punishment.
His first idea was this monster. Then he realised that it was nothing but a human in a mask. So then he took the concept further, giving him a head in the shape of a triangle. He explains it this way.
この三角形の痛々しい感じであるとかがまさに裏設定を説明する上で適当な形だった。
As for why now, why is Konami allowing Behavior to use the Silent Hill license right now? Well, there's been a lot of rumors in the Silent Hill community that Konami is finally going to get off their ass and possibly work on a Silent Hill game behind closed doors. Although Konami themselves deny these allegations, the release of Silent Hill content in a big name game like DVD once again supports the idea that Konami may be giving this franchise another chance. If you don't know by now, Silent Hill games have sucked for over 15 years now. Since Silent Hill 4, Konami hasn't made a game that fits in with the original storyline, setting, or writing, and instead has sort of turned into a gore fest, sort of like a Saw-like entity. The newer games are like fine, but they aren't really like amazing, right? The first 3 or 4 Silent Hill games are really when the original developers all worked together, mostly, and they made some great storylines that all intertwined a little bit without sort of beating you over the head if you didn't play the last game. Now these newer games may appeal to many Silent Hill fans, but there's also many of us who long for the day where the series gets a proper reboot or maybe a remake, more along the lines of Tomb Raider or the recent Crash and Spyro HD remakes. Instead though, Konami spent their time focusing on pachinko machines and firing their best developers. In the end, I kinda hope Silent Hill is getting something new and that this is a hint of that. And maybe that's why Silent Hill is coming to Dead by Daylight. At this time though, only time will tell. But once again, for those of you who think Pyramid Head is an odd choice in Dead by Daylight, just consider this. The developers themselves have called themselves the Smash Bros of horror games. Pyramid Head is the only real icon they can use from Silent Hill. If this is the Smash Bros of horror games, and you're including other horror video games, Pyramid Head will have to eventually be there. Now, that doesn't mean that Pyramid Head's going to be the only one. Now that we're introducing video game characters into this, we could see a bunch of cool killers like Nemesis, maybe Mr. X with a legacy skin for Nemesis. We could see like something from Outlast, or maybe Slenderman. We could see the creature from Amnesia, the one that you can't really look at or you get all scared. There's a bunch of really cool killers in horror games. And I know many people who play DVD are just horror film fans, but I'm telling you, if you open your mind and look at all the other forms of media that horror offers, there's a lot of cool killers like this. And Pyramid Head is a cool killer. I know people think he looks kind of weird looking. If you haven't played Silent Hill 2 yet, it's hard to explain, but he does some really messed up stuff in the game. He harasses you constantly as both the player and the character in game, and it always feels like you really don't want to run into him. When you think of anyone in the game that you'd want to run into, any enemies or any bosses or anything, he is probably the most messed up thing you could run into in Silent Hill 2. And that's why he makes for a pretty scary killer, not only in Silent Hill 2, but I think in this game. And that's also why Silent Hill has taken Pyramid Head and put him in several other games in the franchise. Whereas if you actually know the story of Silent Hill, you know that Pyramid Head should really only be able to appear in Silent Hill 2 for story reasons. But anyway, to me, it's really awesome that he's showing up in this game, since he is actually a pretty scary, pretty cool looking dude, and I think he fits right in the world of Dead by Daylight. This whole video I've been making a case for Pyramid Head and Silent Hill and why it should be featured in this game. And if you still are not satisfied that Pyramid Head is in this game, just think about this last piece of information. This is our first video game killer. This killer opens the door to making this the true Smash Brothers of horror games by bringing movie killers and video game killers together, and that's just awesome. You're looking at, again, titles like Outlast, Amnesia, Slenderman, all these titles, those killers, we never knew if they could be in the game or not, and now we know they can. This is an awesome opportunity for even fans of other horror games to think about who the next franchise killer might be, and that is pretty awesome. If the killer you wanted did not make it into this DLC, maybe next time. Just keep asking behavior, and I'm sure they'll look out for you. I think personally, one big reason they picked Pyramid Head is just personal taste. I know a lot of Dead by Daylight devs, they loved Silent Hill. It's their favorite game series. I know that Silent Hill 2 is like a personal favorite of Kote, which is one of the head developers, I believe. When it comes to this choice, I think a lot of it was personal. But again, there are very good reasons for Pyramid Head to be in Dead by Daylight. I've given them all in this video, so think about them and try to consider what else might come to the game because of this DLC. I want to thank you again for watching. If you're interested in more, Dead by Daylight content or Silent Hill content, subscribe, because I think the next pieces of content I'm going to make are going to be based on horror games. So again, stay tuned and check me out if you found this video informative, more interesting. Thanks again for watching, and have a great day.